What is up, everyone? Hello, and welcome to ROG Pulse, your inside look at what's going on behind the scenes here at the Republic of Gamers. And today it is Q&A day, as we just last week unveiled the ROG Ally X, and ever since then we've had questions coming in through Discord, Reddit, everywhere else on the internets. But Whitson, just hi, how you been, man?
Was that last week? That feels like a month ago.
I know I've been actually sick.
It's been a
pretty
long
much
week.
like ever since like the tail end of Computex. So it's been, and it feels like a lifetime ago, but we were actually in Taiwan less than a week ago for Computex, and we are back now with a Q&A. And there's a lot to go over here. We've got our lovely OG Ally that we've known and loved for almost exactly a year now. It's been on shelves, and the Ally X is, I think we're going to have them in hand soon.
Yes, very soon. They're on our way to us. We don't have them to hold in front of you today. And so for that reason also, you'll notice that it says part 1 in the title of this video.
Yes.
There are some questions we still don't have answers to yet, right? So Jake and I know a lot of stuff about this device, but we don't know everything, right? We're not the people who really got down to the metal and made it. So we have to go sometimes hunt down engineers or product managers or whoever to get answers to some of your questions. And I don't have one to open up myself and look through the internals to answer some of your questions. So we're going to answer as much as we can today in part 1. And we're going to have a part 2 next Thursday, same time, same place, with even more answers, including some that I know you guys are really going to want to hear. So stay tuned. Jake, is my audio and video okay?
As far as I know.
You had a face on like, oh no, Whitson's a robot. Okay, cool.
No.
So,
I'm just reading 10. I've got 10 things I'm looking at.
So you guys can ask a question live, but we may not have an answer off the top of our heads for the reasons I just said, right? If you ask a question live, we're not going to answer it instantly, so please don't spam the chat with the same stuff. We're going to answer some of the questions that we got on Discord and Reddit and places like that, and we're going to take a few like live Q&A breaks in the middle where Lane is working behind the scenes to kind of jot down your questions, and we'll kind of go through some of the live ones that we can answer about the Ally X at a few different points in the stream. So, and if you ask a question and you don't get an answer, it may be because we answered it earlier in the stream. So help each other out. Let them know when the question has already been answered. Also, keep in mind, we're going to have timestamps. This will also be up on after, so if you can't make the whole stream, you can go back and watch it afterwards. We'll have timestamps in it, so you can see all of that stuff. One final piece of housekeeping before we start as well.
I just got to say, nobody in chat's type ! Giveaway. I mean,
I know. Well, that's because I haven't announced it yet. Those of you who watch ROG Pulse regularly know that we usually give away a few game keys each stream. But today we are doing something special because this is such a big, important stream for us. Huge giveaway. $2,500 worth of Games Planet money that you guys can spend on whatever game you want. Split, they're $50 vouchers. There's like 50 of them. This is to show our appreciation for our most dedicated members of the Ally community during this launch. Thank you guys so much for being here, for asking all of your questions, all that stuff. We're not doing the giveaway live like usual because there's so many keys to give away. Instead, go to the link you're going to see in chat or in the description of the video, and we will pick 50 winners for $50 Games Planet vouchers at the end of next weekend. It was going to be the end of this weekend, but because we're doing 2 parts, we're stretching it out over the week. So you have a week to enter. Get pumped. It's going to be sweet. All right. First question, Jake. Let's get started.
Okay. Jumping in.
Guys, you don't type exclamation point giveaway to enter the giveaway. You just type it to get the link.
Yes.
The link is already in chat.
I'll drop it again, and I'll even toggle over so I can pin it from a different window. But that giveaway is going to be open for about a week for a giveaway part for our Q&A part 1 and 2. So please enter via the link, but you don't need to type anything in chat to actually enter. Cool. Okay. Was the ROG Ally X announcement live or pre-recorded, or where is the live chat replay?
Okay, so here, this is actually not about the Ally X specifically, but a lot of people have been asking us questions about this stuff. Yeah, so I wanted to tackle this first to give some newcomers some context into how we produce our streams. So the Ally X announcement was in fact pre-recorded. However, we stream multiple times a week on this channel, and like 99% of the time, it is in fact live. Yeah. We take user questions, we jam about random stuff.
We're live right now.
It is a true live stream. Yes. There are only a couple streams per year that we pre-record, and it's usually for bigger launch events like CES, Computex, etc., because they have to be approved by multiple people in the company, and because one or both of us are usually out of town at those events when the stream takes place. So we can't stream because we're like on the show floor or whatever. But this show, ROG Pulse, is almost always live otherwise. That includes this stream. That includes the stream that Jake's going to stream tomorrow, probably. That includes our stream a few weeks ago where we first teased the Ally X, which is now infamous for being an announcement of announcement, which, guys, I have to apologize. That was me. That was live, but there were some last minute changes to how all of that went down. We promoted the stream kind of too heavily and too early, and it was a terrible miscalculation on my part. I never intended for people to think that was the full Ally X announcement. Never my intention to mislead the community or like clickbait people into a false announcement. By the time I knew how that stream was going to go down and what people were anticipating, like the hype had gotten away from me and I couldn't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Like that was 100% my fault. I'm sorry. Won't happen again. We learned a hard lesson.
I remember
there.
We were sitting with the countdown and I was like, yo, we've got like 6,000 viewers. And you're like,
I was like, no, that's not what this is supposed to be. It was supposed to be like a normal ROG Pulse stream where we just like teased the announcement. And then, I just didn't realize that the way we promoted it was going to make people think that. So sorry, guys. Anyway, what was I saying? To answer the original question, we're almost always live.
Yeah.
Very few exceptions. Now, to address the live chat question, the reason that you see live, on most of our videos after the stream, you'll see live chat replay is disabled. This has to do with the way we're publishing our streams through YouTube. We used to do, we do these like full hour plus long streams, right? And we used to just leave the full stream up on YouTube as a video that people can go back and watch later. The problem is that usually our main topic for the stream is only like 10, 20 minutes of that stream. And so it ends up getting lost in this big hour plus long video. And then so when people are searching for like AFMF on the ROG Ally, they would have to sift through this like hour and a half long stream to find the 10 minutes they actually wanted to see.
Right.
So this year we started doing something differently where we'll start ROG Pulse with our main topic, and that's a bit more structured. Usually do fewer live questions depending on the topic so we can get through everything in a timely manner. And then for the rest of the stream, we're jamming. We're like talking about what came out that week. We're talking about games. We're doing giveaways, just chilling with the community and taking questions. And then after that stream is done, I'll go and use YouTube's built-in video editor to cut out all of that stuff and just keep the main topic so that when people later go to search like AFMF on the ROG Ally, they just see like a digestible 10-minute video with just the info they want rather than this huge stream that they like either don't want to click on or have to then scrub through. That's also why you'll see random cuts in our streams after the fact. It's not because it's pre-recorded. It's because we're just editing for time or clarity. And when you use YouTube's built-in video editor, it removes the live chat replay automatically.
Yep.
I'm assuming because it can't match up the chat with the video if you've like chopped up the video. So when you see that it's been disabled, it's nothing nefarious on our part, right? It's just the way YouTube works when you edit videos.
Yeah.
But so far, this approach is working well for us, and I think it's working better for our audience in terms of seeing what they actually want to see. So
I agree.
If you want to watch the full stream, you can watch live, or you can go to our Twitch channel, which has the full version of every stream archive.
That's
we
true.
don't edit those down.
And the chat stays there and everything. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So I hope that helps. There's a lot of other behind the scenes stuff we could talk about, but I think it's better we get to the Ally X questions now.
Okay. So Ice Vixen asks, which countries will receive the ROG Ally X and when? We've seen this question echoed in chat numerous times already today.
Yeah, I adapted this question because everyone's asking about their specific country, but I wanted it to be kind of more widely encompassing. So I don't have a list at the moment of all the release dates, but here's kind of how it works, right? The ROG Ally X should be available in every country that had the original Ally, plus actually a few more. As for when the release date is in your country, there is a global launch date, July 22nd. That's when it launches in the US and a number of other countries. Some countries sometimes put it a little bit later. And if it's not public, like I can't necessarily tell you. First of all, I don't have all of those dates just on the top of my head. What you should do is check the ASUS site for your region or check the retailers in your region, especially if your country had the Ally last generation. It's likely that it'll be at some of the same retailers. So go check those retailers. They'll usually post dates when they're ready to be public. So some regions will follow that July 22nd global launch date, like the US. Some maybe later. It just depends. I know, I'm sorry, I can't give you a more specific answer about like what exactly the release date or price is going to be in your region if it's not public yet. But if it's not public, then I can't necessarily say. So keep an eye on the retailers in your area.
Okay, moving on. Why didn't ROG put an OLED in the Ally X?
Oh, I didn't know people were asking this. Were people asking this?
Oh gosh. He's trolling, chat.
All right, guys, let's do this. Okay. So we heard the feedback on this one. We really did. We saw it all. But there are a few reasons we didn't go this direction on the Ally X. This is kind of a long answer, so bear with me. The first reason is kind of a philosophy thing. The display is a big part of the front and center device experience, right? And our team felt that once we upgrade something as big as and important as the display, you're kind of talking about a next generation. You're talking about an Ally 2, right? And the Ally 2, we also feel should include a chip upgrade, which we weren't ready for yet. We'll talk about that in a bit. The other part of this is that OLED in particular comes with some trade-offs that we weren't ready to make at this juncture quite yet. Things change. That's just how we feel for 2024. A lot of the handheld OLED panels that you'll find out there right now are, for example, less bright, which is bad for playing in various environments like you do with a handheld. They're also less power efficient, which I know a lot of people don't know that. OLED panels actually consume more power than a typical LED. And that means less battery life, which you guys told us is very, very important to you. The most important thing on the Ally X was battery life.
That was the biggest focus, yeah.
That was a consideration as well. But the biggest downside, which I've talked about before, is that right now these mobile OLED panels don't have variable refresh rate, or VRR. And the FreeSync Premium panel on the original Ally is one of its biggest advantages versus other handhelds.
Yeah.
And that's just not something we were willing to sacrifice. VRR is so freaking killer on this device. It lends such a feeling of smoothness to games, especially when you're playing them even if you're playing a game at 45 frames per second, it's still really smooth because of that VRR. So we just couldn't get that up. Now, obviously, ROG has invested heavily into OLEDs on the desktop side, and recently on the laptop side as well.
Yeah.
We did make VRR work on our OLED laptops where it had never been before.
Just
but
this
those
year,
OLED laptops,
for the first time.
Yeah, just this year. Yeah.
Brand
for the first
new.
time. But those laptops, the Zephyrus G14 and G16, those are very high-end devices, right? And for the Ally, we're trying to target a more accessible price point. And so that's where the cost equation comes in. We talked a lot about this in the previous stream. You're going to hear me talk about it a lot again today. The OLED panels that we're seeing at this size, they either have too many sacrifices, like I mentioned, or if you're talking about the really good OLED panels that you see on phones, they're just way too expensive for the price point that we're targeting, right? You would end up with a really, really pricey device, and that's just not our target at this moment. Now, stay with me, because I can feel some of you breaking out the pitchforks. There are more dimensions to this. So you've heard me talk about cost a lot, and you're going to hear me talk about it more. But when I talk about our cost targets, I'm not saying that there's no market for a high-end handheld. In fact, some of us at ROG think that there very well may be a market for a high-end handheld. But it is definitely a smaller market, right? So just by definition, higher cost, smaller market. And remember that for a lot of people, this isn't their main gaming machine. For some people it is, but for a lot of people, this is a secondary machine to their main PC. And they're not necessarily going to spend as much as they spent on a decked out PC for a secondary machine. So this is a really new space. We're trying to focus on a more manageable lineup. We're going to prove the long-term viability of handhelds and all that. So we're focusing on the biggest portion of the market that we can for now. If the Ally continues to be successful, who knows? We may look at extending the lineup. I don't know what that will look like yet. Maybe the Ally 2 it ends up being a higher end device that exists alongside the Ally X and its successors. Maybe it won't actually be called the Ally 2 at all. Maybe it will. I don't know. Deciding the lineup doesn't fall to me, but
right. We can only speculate,
at least in part. So I'll have to figure that out, like as those devices take more shape with the project management team. We'll kind of have to see how that falls. One of the things that I'm learning as I get deeper and deeper into this industry, and one thing that we're trying to, with these kind of streams and this level of transparency, try and get you guys to think about too, is think of what you would do if you were selling a device like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take off your user hat for a second and put on your manufacturer hat, and you have to run a business, right? This is very hard for me to do, but I'm getting slightly better at it. Do you want to start by making a more expensive version that loses you a ton of potential sales and market share? Or do you want to start with a device that's going to give you the best possible bang for your incoming buck as a manufacturer? I'm not saying that first approach is necessarily wrong. It's just not what we see as ideal from where we're standing right now, right? We want to find that sweet spot of what appeals to the most users and hits that cost effectiveness for us as a manufacturer, while still, of course, producing a high quality device, right? Like we could get even bigger market share maybe if we produced a piece of garbage that was $200. But we don't want to do that.
That's not
I don't know if
ROG.
we'd get more market share, but like theory, it's not worthy of the ROG name, right? Like, yeah, exactly.
Right.
So we have quality goals too, but again, that sweet spot. So if you don't target that sweet spot, you end up losing money and you don't have the capital to invest in your next device. So my hope is that one day, we have enough evidence and capital and whatever to go and invest in other segments of the handheld market. But right now it's still really early in the world of handhelds, right? So we are really focused on that sweet spot. All that said, I can't promise what the future will or won't hold for the Ally. This is where we are for right now, today, this generation of Ally. What I can say is that we definitely hear you. We understand the desire for more high-end components, a better visual experience, and other things like that. Long term, we're looking into multiple solutions, what that might look like on a handheld device. But for the Ally X, we wanted to keep it where it is because we didn't want this to be a whole new generation yet.
Okay. Moving on. Why does this still have bezels? Arg! I hate bezels. This was Whitson's writing, and I was like, I'm leaving it.
I'm paraphrasing the community on this one, but this is a related question to the display. So let's tackle it now. Let's talk about bezels. Okay, so we made a lot of adjustments to the Ally X, right? But removing the bezels and making the screen larger would have been a much more intensive change to the device as a whole. It not only requires a more major revision to the chassis, but we would have to source an entirely new display plus some other components, which ends up being very costly. Now, here's another thing that I think a lot of people don't know. I'm going to turn this device on just so you can see the bezels, but this is a touch screen, right? Like many of its ilk. And for a touch screen, you have the panel, and you actually have a small control board mounted to the very bottom of the panel. If you were to rip the panel out of this, you would see a board attached to the very bottom here, and it has to be very close to the display for it to manage the touch sensitivity and all that kind of stuff. So the bezels are actually kind of necessary to hide that, because that board can't. If we were to put the display all the way to the edge, you wouldn't have room for that board, right? The bezels give that board room to exist. So that's why you see bezels on not just the Ally, but our competitors as well. Most of them have bezels as well for the same reason. Now you can get fancy with it, right? You've probably seen phones that don't have bezels. That usually involves taking that board and flipping it around underneath the display or something like that. But it's a very expensive solution on top of having to provision a new display. And that would have easily made this, again, a whole new generation of device with a much higher price tag. Wasn't what we wanted for this release. So I know that and I know people, you could shrink the bezels on the side, but you're going to get very, very little area from that. And it's nice and symmetrical. So I think it's going to be less of I know for some people it's just like an eyesore. I think on the black device, they're going to care a little bit less. I personally don't mind at all, but there are practical reasons why that's there.
Never knew that. That's interesting.
It is interesting. And did you see the panel when we were in Taiwan? They actually showed the panel. We had
in the behind the scenes room. Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Just exploded version of the Ally. Yeah, it was cool. We got to, a bunch of YouTubers were brought out to our headquarters. They got behind the scenes tours and hands-on.
Probably saw some of their videos
with some engineers.
Fox was there.
Yeah. So we kind of snuck into, Lane and I were wandering around. We kind of snuck in and dropped in on some of those conversations, which was neat. But learned a lot. There's a lot to learn about devices like this because there's just so much going on. But we've had live questions being gathered in the chat throughout the stream, and you guys can keep asking them as Lane is monitoring the chats and keeping an eye on.
We are almost certainly not going to be able to get to all of them, but I will try to get to the ones that I can answer that we haven't already answered elsewhere.
Right, but as just a reiteration that we are doing a part 2 of the Q&A. We actually know that we're not going to answer all questions today because there are tons and tons and tons of them, but we are also waiting for some responses from other people within the company, whether it be engineering or whatnot, so that we can answer your questions as completely as possible. But anyways, price and release date in various regions. That was a common question in chat. I think we kind of addressed this a little bit already.
Here, I'm gonna mark in yellow ones that I can answer here. That maybe seems like the best way to do this, and then you can.
Sure. Well, is Jake wearing new glasses?
I can't do that.
I saw multiple people ask this, which is surprising. Yes, I am wearing new glasses. Thank you for noticing. What else?
There we go. I couldn't get this working. Okay. Is the hard case an upcoming product, or is it part of a bundle? Right now, it's sold separately. Some bundles, like that's usually on the retailer side. We do some bundles in certain regions, but as far as I know, we've had a lot of questions about the hard case. We have a few more coming up. One thing people have asked is like, hey, is there a pre-order for the hard case? When's it going to be available? The hard case was slightly delayed, so it's going to be probably a couple weeks after the Ally X launches. It should be on shelves, at least in the US. So keep an eye out for that. It is coming up. Is there a trade-in program? So I've seen some questions about this. I don't have a ton of information to offer on this at the moment. Most of that, again, that falls to the retailers. So it's going to be different in every region. Check your local retailers. Like, I don't have much control over what they're offering. I've seen some of the feedback and passed it on. I know Best Buy is offering a trade-in right now for the Ally to the Ally X. I don't know about like Currys or other retailers in certain regions, so you'll just kind of have to check and see what they offer. And like what they offer may change. Like they may not do it for pre-order, but they may do it at launch time or after launch time or whatever. So you'll just have to kind of check around for that. Will these be available on Amazon at release? I don't believe so. I believe this is the Ally X is a Best Buy exclusive.
For the US. Amazon may be available in other regions.
Yeah, no idea.
But for the US, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Best Buy exclusivity, just like the original Ally. Yeah.
Do you see the Steam Deck as a strong competitor? Of course.
Steam Deck is, the OG. Like when it comes to this space, they started this wave. We were already making the Ally, as far as I understand. It's been prototyped for a long time. But the Steam Deck, I think, kind of ushered in the era.
I think we were kind of waiting for like performance to be at the level that we wanted, that we felt was like really where we wanted for a handheld too and stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of our competitors are competitors. I'm glad that we got out of the gate pretty quickly and that we've gotten so much positive feedback about the device and people really like it, and we were able to iterate quickly and make it even better to kind of cement that leadership in the space. I do believe that we are one of the leaders in the space, and hopefully we'll stay there. But just in terms of the quality of the device,
it feels like a healthy rivalry too, because like when we launched the Ally, Steam tweeted out saying congratulations on your launch, blah blah blah, right? Just kind of acknowledging us, which is cool, right? It's nice to have that. So, yeah.
Will Suspend work any differently on the Ally X? So this is nothing specific to the Ally X there, I don't think. There may be like really small things that are different, but nothing huge. So a lot of that is like kind of a software thing too. Requires like some stuff from Microsoft, and we can do some stuff in Armory Crate. And we have been trying to add some stuff to Armory Crate to kind of improve that experience. But yeah, you'll just kind of have to see as Armory Crate updates come out. It really does kind of vary from game to game. That's not something that I think we have like necessarily complete control over. This next one we're going to answer later in more detail.
All right.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of other live questions, but some of those are already on our list, so we're going to get to them shortly.
Okay.
Yeah, and some of them some of them are being saved for next time. So
okay. So
stay tuned, guys.
So there's a lot of questions that are being asked, and we're not ignoring you guys. We either have plans to answer it later in the show, or we are doing a follow-up Q&A stream next week where we've got some questions that are slotted in there where we're just waiting for some final verification on stuff. So we'll be sure to answer them. But we are definitely reading chat and seeing everything you guys are saying. So continuing on with the questions we've got prepared and selected already. Why didn't ROG upgrade the APU? Why not wait for one of AMD's Strix Point chips?
Okay, so let's talk about the chip. This was another really big question. The chip, right, to us is what really separates a full new generation, again, quote unquote, Ally 2 device. To us, going with a new chip and a new display is kind of part and parcel with upgrading to an next gen. And here's the thing, replacing that chip requires a bigger overhaul than you might think, especially regarding things like the thermal solution, for example. And that means more cost. So here's kind of the logic behind our decision as it was explained to me. Jake, do you remember when my boss first told us what the original Ally was going to be $699? What did we say?
No, there's no way.
We said no way.
Yeah.
I said come back to me when you have a serious number. We had been guessing
the prices. Yeah, we had been guessing the prices. They throw around numbers, but then a lot of the times those numbers aren't what land when the product officially comes out. Like you hear a price and then the price changes and whatnot. But yes, I do remember that because $699 for what the product is.
I thought, no way in heck is it going to be $699. That's too low of a price for how good of performance you're getting out of this.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. Obviously, there are a bunch of different factors to this. We have the economies of scale that some of our competitors at the time didn't have, things like that. But what I didn't know at the time, and what I know now, is that this was kind of always the plan. We didn't just pick the Z1 Extreme out of thin air, right? The Z1 Extreme was designed to be a very targeted level of performance for handhelds. And it still performs great, right? And it's really cost effective if you spread it out over more than just 1 year. So think of what consoles do, right? If the chip may be expensive to produce at the beginning of the console's life cycle, but over time, it gets cheaper to produce in year whatever. So if you know that you're going to be targeting a certain life cycle, you can spread out the cost over your planned life cycle and offer your device at a lower price up front. Now, I'm not saying we're going to keep the Z1 Extreme for 7 years. Okay,
right.
That's don't misread what I'm saying. I'm just using that example to demonstrate the cost spreading principle here. Every decision we make has a cost factor associated with it, and that cost gets passed on to you guys. And so we're kind of trying to plan for a device that's going to be, again, accessible to a large number of people and that performs well, which the Z1 Extreme does. And if it does still perform well, we're not aiming for a complete and total overhaul of the device. We're going to wait until a big improvement in GPU performance is available and necessary. We don't want people to feel like they have to upgrade every single year, right? In fact, just because we released the Ally X 1 year after the Ally, it doesn't mean we're going to be on a 1 year cadence forever. We're not trying to manufacture FOMO, right?
Right.
I know that that's been something that has annoyed people in the handheld space before. People are like, oh, I feel like I have to upgrade every 6 months because a new device is always coming out and it always has better performance. And I hate that they're always releasing new stuff. We actually don't want that, right? We're trying not to do that to you. Our plan, at least right now, is to produce a refresh or a new generation when we feel it is time to do so. And the hardware that we have access to justifies it.
Right. So the Ally X, this is a 1 year refresh, which is pretty aggressive, but also this is our first product we've ever released where we got such high level amounts of feedback, so much feedback where there's things that our engineers could tackle without changing the chip and all of those things and really make these improvements. And let me tell you, after holding this thing from our trip in Taiwan, holy crap, it feels amazing in your hands. The different shape on the handles on the back, slightly heavier, but not really. It doesn't feel that much heavier. The buttons feel better. The joysticks feel better. The triggers feel so much better. All of those things were the feedback that you guys gave us. And that, is why we have this 1 year refresh ultimately, right? It's we can make a better device.
And it goes both ways. So I've seen a lot of people saying oh, there's no spec refresh. I'm not going to buy it. What a fail. No, we know that. We know we're not expecting every single Ally owner to upgrade to the Ally X.
Of course
right?
not.
Many of you, if you love the Ally as it is, and all you care about is more performance, then yeah, you don't need the Ally X, right? If you have the Ally and you really want more battery, or you really care about the ergonomics and you want the tighter sticks, and all of that stuff adds up to something that is very worth the upgrade to you, which it definitely does for many people, go for it. We made it for you. And we also made it for people who are just getting into the handheld space for the first time. So it's not like we're not trying to, obviously the more people upgrade, the happier we are because we sell more devices, but we're not trying to push everyone to get rid of their Ally and upgrade right now. That's not, we're not trying to make you feel like your device is outdated. But we got so much feedback that we wanted to put it all into something.
Yeah.
Now, that means we may have another device in a year. or it may be more.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a 1 year till the next device and then longer for the generation after that, right? There are a ton of different factors that go into those decisions, but we're not committing to a specific pattern just for the sake of having a pattern.
Right. We're not a cell phone
That doesn't make
company.
sense to us.
This is a new space for us. And, we're rolling with it with the community, right?
Yep. So we'll see what comes. Like, none of that, don't take any of that to mean like, oh, Asus said this is going to happen, because I don't know what's going to happen. But I just want everyone to like kind of understand the thought process behind it.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. I think that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. Will the original Ally continue to get updates?
Of course. Of course. I've seen this question so much in chat. We're going to release Armory Crate SE 1.5 for the original Ally, as well as the Ally X, right?
Like next month?
The original Ally is going to continue to get updates. This, that's easy for us because, like we just talked about, it's the same Z1 Extreme platform.
Mm-hmm.
I know people are worried about updates and about something becoming, end of life or whatever, like we were just talking about. But I'll say the same thing I said last year. Look at our laptops if you want to see our track record. Those get Armory Crate updates for quite a long time. So there's some history there of us continuing to update those devices. I don't be worried about your update losing, or your Ally losing updates this year. And especially considering we're targeting those slightly longer life cycles for this kind of PC console hybrid device. So yeah, definitely we're still going to be releasing updates.
Sweet. Okay. From Warlock Ducks, will there be new colors for the Ally X in the future?
Yes. We got a lot of questions about this. A lot of people asked about a white version. Man, this has been such a back and forth for us. Like, originally they were like, oh, we think we're going to do it black. And we were like, oh, this looks cool. And then they showed us the white version. And I was like, no, not white. The black is better. And then I actually like got my hands on it and started using the white. And I was like, no, the white is better. I want the like, I've gone back and forth so many times. I love the white colorway. Jake, do you prefer the white or the black?
The black, 100%. I think it was the right decision to make the OG Ally white. But I mean, my setup, everything's black, right? I've always used black peripherals for ROG. The original aesthetic for ROG is black and red, right? So it feels at home to me. But I get it. People like both.
So yeah, it was one of those things where we had to make a call. We released the white, and then we had so many people asking for a black model, right? It's just really common feedback. So since we were manufacturing a new chassis anyway, we thought it best to start with black and show people that we're listening to feedback. And look, we have both white and black devices. So we may have more color options for the Ally X in the future, but for right now, we're starting with black. Like, that's all I can say. I don't know what's coming, but again, in terms of offering multiple colors alongside each other, I would love to see that one day. I expect that if that were to come, it would be later as this ecosystem evolves. Right now, we wanted to start with black. I think it kind of fits too. Black, like a lot of times when you see like white and black, the black is a little bit more of the premium device, which is kind of what the Ally X is. So I kind of see it. And I'll say this. My biggest concern with the black was I was like, it's going to show fingerprints and stuff. Like but it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
It really doesn't. It's actually like pretty fingerprint resistant, which I was very happy to see. So
same. Both
the white and the black have exceeded all my expectations.
Yeah.
All my accessories are white, which I'm a little bit sad about, but the black colorway looks really nice. And those of you complaining about bezels, the bezels are going to blend right in.
Bezels. All right. So this comes from Mushi Master Ginkgo. Is Asus planning an update to the official charger dock, maybe with multiple ports and higher speeds?
Nothing to announce on that at this time. That said, we also know that third parties are going to be like producing a lot of good stuff. So I expect to see a few docking stations from some of the usual suspects that the Ally community has come to know. If there's something you need that there's something that you have different needs, right, for your docking station, there are plenty of third-party options out there. I also saw some people asking, I don't know if I put this in part 2, but I'll answer it now since it's related. People saying, like, does the new charger, that 140 watt charger, they're like, does that have video output like the previous dock? No, it's just a charger. Again, if you want something different, look to some of those third parties. There's going to be probably a decent amount of stuff coming out.
Yeah, the new charger dock is cool because it's so you can travel.
The new charger.
Yeah. Sorry, it's just so that you can bring the one brick to have your phone, your laptop, your Ally,
I'm hyped
whatever.
about it though.
Yeah, I will
140
absolutely.
watts is cool.
I'm gonna use it for
And
100% when I travel to anywhere. I'm just gonna bring that instead of my normal brick.
yeah, and here's something that I didn't mention in the announcement stream because I'd kind of forgotten. But there were a couple minor things that I forgot to mention during the announcement stream. One was that the buttons on the Ally X, the face buttons, have also been altered. They're a little bit taller, a little bit clickier. They wobble
They feel
a little bit
so
less.
much
It's a really,
better.
really nice upgrade that I didn't mention at all in the announcement stream. The other thing is that the Ally X, it's going to come with the same 65-watt charger, but it's going to be capable of 100-watt charging. So if you have a bigger brick like that 140-watt brick and you're only plugging the Ally X in, it will charge because it has a bigger battery, right? So if you have the same charging speed but a bigger battery, it takes longer to get to 50 or 100%. But with the Ally X, you're going to be able to plug in, so you have a 100-watt laptop Type C charger or something. You could plug that into the Ally and charge it, charge up that 80-watt-hour battery faster, which is really cool.
Pretty great. All right. So this is from Pixel Quips. Is the new hard case more straightforward than the current soft case? More obvious what orientation the Ally goes in? Really?
This is a really interesting question.
Hold on. I mean, I get it, but also when you open your case, right? I've got the soft case right here. This is the soft case. There's an indentation, if you can see that, where the joysticks go. Like, I mean,
but how hard is that to figure out? It's kind of hard, especially if you're in the dark. So look, I get it because sometimes it's hard to see just like at a glance. If you have to think about it, I get it. The other thing about that case is that it's symmetrical on both sides. So if you hold it up, the top is the same thickness as the bottom. So I know there's a logo on one side, but so here's the thing: the hard case is a bit more straightforward. There are a couple aspects to this. One, like Jake said, there are cutouts, right? There is a correct orientation, and the same is true for the hard case. The hard case has those cutouts. There is a correct way to put it in, but because it's thicker to hold the charger or any other accessories, it's a little bit easier, and it's shaped a little bit differently. It's a little bit easier to tell like which side is up and down, which side it opens up on, and then you just have to remember which direction, like this way you have to put it in. So that's still there. The divots are a little bit bigger for the joystick, so it's maybe a little bit easier to see.
Yeah.
But
Ally X case is the hard case is a lot bigger. It has a handle. It's like you said, it holds the charger dock. It's designed to carry more than just the unit. So it definitely is heftier.
The way I see it is that the case, I wish I meant to get out my case before this. The soft case is meant to for putting the Ally in the case and then putting the case in a bag, right? Like it's not so much a standalone case. It is just protection for the Ally,
it's screen cover
in
protection,
another bag,
and maybe to carry a few games, right?
Right. Whereas the hard case is designed to be more of a standalone case. It's got a handle, right? It can carry your charger and accessories. So instead of that being designed to go in a bigger bag, that's designed to be your Ally bag. Does that make sense? So both cases are kind of relevant to slightly different situations. All that said, let's go to the next question because this is related to what I'm talking about.
Follow
up.
Right now. Does the OG Ally case work with the Ally X as well?
So technically, the original Ally case is just for the original Ally. One of the things about that case, and actually it's one of my favorite things about that case, and the reason that I went out and purchased that case, the company didn't send it to me, I bought it.
Same.
Is that it is very compact. It is the most compact Ally case because it's a really snug fit with the exact right amount of padding for the Ally's form factor. It was literally made for this device and this device only. Now, the Ally X is very similarly sized, but
you've been going to the gym. You've been working out.
Swole. It has slightly deeper handles. It is a bit thicker. It's not super noticeable when you're holding it that it's thicker. It doesn't feel thicker, but it is thicker, right? So technically, that soft case isn't going to provide that same exact fit and that same level of protection to the new model because it's going to be a bit more compressed in there. The hard case was designed to fit both. So if you're getting the hard case, you're all set. But for the soft case, we only officially advertise compatibility with the original Ally.
Right. So could you squeeze it in there and shut it? Technically. But are we going to say that it's compatible? Technically, no. No.
I mean, and even the joysticks have been moved, right? On the new model. We moved the joysticks just a little bit for those ergonomics things, so those divots may not line up perfectly.
Right.
On the original soft case. Some things like that. It's just, it's just kind of how it ended up.
And those tweaks
So,
are minor, like the sticks are moved just a little bit, right? And the buttons are moved just a little bit, but it,
the main thing is the thickness there, and that's something
Yeah.
we couldn't get away with on this Ally. It just, when you're doubling the size of the battery, you reconfigure all the internals. It's got to be a little bit thicker, and so and then you're compressing that padding, and we can't say that it's like officially compatible.
Yeah.
So
it is what it is.
Yep. All right. More live questions.
Okay.
Hit me. I'll delete any that I can't answer or cut them out for the next stream.
Sure. So will button mapping be the same on the Ally X as it was on the original Ally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's actually even better.
Armory Crate's been updated, but the general button mapping process should be the same. It's cool because you'll have the ability to export your button mappings and share them with other members of the community, which is really cool. So they have been actual improvements to it, but not like, I don't think there's been like a total UI overhaul in the way that you do the button remapping,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yep. Okay.
Which, I mean, yeah, I don't think, I mean, I didn't see that question, so I don't know if there was a specific change that they were hoping for, or if they were hoping for no change.
I think they're just making sure it's still a thing. So what performance enhancement can we expect with the increase in RAM frequency?
I don't want to give a specific number yet, because I don't think we have that testing data yet. Probably a few percent, right? And I think it's going to depend from game to game. Some might be higher, some might be lower, some it might be mostly
It's definitely
1%
going to
low. Like, I can't give specific numbers yet. We're hoping. So some of our testing for stuff like that, we also had a question about like how many hours of more battery can I expect? I understand the battery is doubled in capacity, but how many more hours of battery life can I get in this mode or this mode? I can't answer that yet. We're gonna address it more in the next stream, but basically, like, we're still doing that testing. We can't advertise numbers until we've like officially tested it.
Are you working with D-Brand for a case for the Ally X?
Yeah. I believe, yeah, in fact, they just announced, I don't have a link, but if you go to D-Brand's site, you might be able to find it. They just announced that they're working on an Ally X case, and you can sign up for notifications.
Oh, cool.
When they are ready to take pre-orders or whatever. So yes, I believe they are. I don't know how similar it's going to be to the original Kill Switch or what, or if they're going to take into account other feedback. But yeah, they're working on it. Are the joysticks Hall effect? We're going to talk about this more next stream.
Okay.
It's a really long answer, and I wanted to kind of save that for part 2.
For anybody that might have tuned in later, that's asking next stream, what does that mean? We're doing another Q&A stream just because we're waiting on various people to respond to certain questions. Some of these questions are some of the larger questions you guys have been asking, and we weren't able to get all of the answers in time, as we are largely messengers for the company. So we're not necessarily able to compile all the information directly.
Yeah, I know I'm seeing a lot of questions that I just can't necessarily answer yet, guys. Sorry. I know not all questions will be able to get answered today. Come back next time. Your question might be answered then.
1 week
Otherwise,
from today.
Some of the questions I'm seeing are just questions that we're never going to be able to answer. They're like really specific questions that like about other devices that aren't even ours and things like that. Like I can't.
Yeah.
Can you use a Gen 5 SSD on the Ally X? I believe so. It would run at Gen 4 speeds, but I believe Gen 5 SSDs are backwards compatible. I believe. Okay, this is a fun one. What is your personal handheld screen size sweet spot?
Yeah, I'm going to go a little off the rails here. Well, not off the rails, but I'm just going to say, like, from the very beginning, I've been saying I want an 8-inch Ally, right? From the very beginning, I held it and I said, this is great. And after playing with it for a few hours, when we were in Taiwan for a week and we had first all been given Allies. I was playing a ton of Diablo 4 in the office. And I was like, I just want it to be 1 inch bigger, right? 1 inch bigger. And this is just one of those things where, this is my voice and many of your voices in the community where people want that. Whitson said, we don't know what the future of the Ally looks like, right? So is that a possibility in the future? Of course it's a possibility. Doesn't mean it's going to happen just because I'm like, that's what I want. But to me, 8 inches would be perfect.
It's funny. When I was shopping for a handheld, before I knew that we were making the ROG Ally X, I was looking for something smaller. I wanted something small boy, because I like portable stuff. We know this. I talk
this
about
guy
the
uses a G14. I like the strict
small
scarf.
laptops, small everything. I want to fit in my bag. I don't want to feel it on my back. And then I wasn't able to find a handheld that that had the level of performance that I wanted, so I didn't end up buying one. And about a month later, they told me that we were making this, and I was like, "Oh, good thing I didn't just buy one." And when it came out, I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, it's a little bit bigger than what I was looking for." And then I started playing it, and I was like, "Oh no, 7 inches is my sweet spot." If it had been smaller, games that are made for like a desktop, the text is going to be too small. It's going to be like it would be less comfortable to hold, especially now that I've held the Ally X. This is my sweet spot size. And I'm not just saying that because this is a device we make. If we make an 8-inch device, Jake will be happy, and I will say, no, thank you. I'll stick with my 7-inch. Like this, that's how personal preference works, right? And we had two guys in the Discord 5 minutes before we started stream. Someone was like, I want an 8-inch one. And someone was like, no, I want a smaller one. And I was like,
yeah,
this conversation is exactly why it is hard to manufacture a device, right?
Hey.
Like you have a lot of competing feedback. You got to try and dial in what you think is going to appeal to the most users. Not everyone is it's not going to be everyone's perfect device, but hopefully it is everyone's best device that is available right now. And hopefully one day we offer more options, just like we do with laptops. But it's really funny we talked about this in the announcement stream too. Sometimes people have feedback that we can incorporate, and sometimes people have competing feedback, and we have to decide which portion of users is bigger, the people saying this or the people saying this.
Right.
And it's hard.
It's hard. Yeah. But ROG Ally XL win.
That would I because we named this the ROG Ally X, like I wonder if calling it the next like a bigger one an XL would be more confusing, or if it would just be a perfect smooth transition from X to XL. I don't know if that would be a bad thing or good thing. I'm the one who's going to have to name whatever the next thing we come out with. And I'm like, I don't know how complicated it's going to be.
It's called the Ally Plus Ultra then. Nah, who knows? Like it's fun to hear that people have varying opinions, big or small. A lot of people worry about the weight. Obviously, bigger screen means more weight.
Yeah, that was like when we made the first Ally, that was one of our biggest concerns was weight.
600 grams,
which is partially why we went this size and partially why we went the size battery we did. And it was afterwards that everyone, we kind of realized that battery life was more important to people than the weight.
Yep.
But we did still try to keep the weight down on the Ally X for,
Nah, I'm telling you, it's great. The new weight
feels really good.
It's phenomenal. Like
I was really worried because when they first told me we were going to double the battery size, I was like, no, I love how light it is. I play it plugged in anyway. It doesn't matter. Like I want it so light. And when I held the X, I was like, oh, this doesn't feel that different.
The Ally X is still lighter.
This was the correct move. Doubling the battery was the correct move.
It's still lighter than some of our competitors, right? With a bigger battery. So,
Yeah. It was really cool. And we're just talking now to see some of the different things they did to shave off that weight. They had like empty chassis for us to hold, and it's crazy how much lighter the Ally X chassis is because they were to shave some of the unnecessary plastic. They made the fans smaller, which shaved some weight. It's just, we'll talk about this a bit more next time because we have some other questions about the battery and things like that we weren't like, I don't necessarily have answers to yet. But it's like Narnia inside that thing, you guys. I open it up and I'm like, how is all of this packed in here? It's crazy.
Chat saying we should go to Ally Y then Ally Z, but I'm saying we go to Ally Y then Ally B then Ally A to represent a controller. Got him.
Oh, that's funny.
It's stupid is what it is, but that's my brain. Nice.
All right, guys.
Okay.
We're not, like I said, we're not gonna be able to get to all of them, but please stay with us. We're gonna answer some of these questions next time. I'm gonna cut it there. I know that was a lot, and there's still so much more to cover. I hope these are some of my favorite streams to do, you guys. I really hope that this information helps you guys understand where we're coming from when we try to make a lot of these decisions. And I say we, I mean the people who are actually making these decisions. We're trying to be communicative with the community and transparent with as much of this as we can, barring extraneous circumstances or private company information that Jake and I aren't allowed to share or allowed to know. But I think I speak for both of us when I say it's been really interesting for both of us to learn all of this stuff as we've come to this side of the fence of the industry, right? And we think more companies should be open about this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that our bosses and the product manager of the Ally X feel the same way. And they support us doing these kinds of streams and like giving you guys all this kind of insider info. So guys, do not forget to enter the giveaway. $2,500 of Games Planet cash for your Ally or your Ally X or your PC. You have until the end of next weekend, end of next Saturday, US time, I think it is,
Right.
to get your entries in. We will be addressing more of these questions next week. Follow us on Twitch, subscribe to us on YouTube. We stream this show, ROG Pulse, every Thursday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. It will be the same time for part 2 of this stream next week. We've got plenty more coming. Plus, we've got Ally X's in the mail. You're going to be doing some game streams, right? What's the first game you're going to play in the Ally X?
Man, you're asking the hard questions. I think Elden Ring drops next week. So depending on when the Ally X drops, Erdtree might have to be the first game, depending on when I get the Ally X though. So
and we already have optimized settings for it.
Yeah.
Unless Erdtree ends up being way heftier in
well, we'll see. But I'm leaning towards that. That sounds fun.
It's a good choice.
Yeah.
It's a good choice. All right, cool. I don't know what my first will be. Probably Forza Horizon 5, because it's always the first game I play on anything. But so, Gage, you'll be streaming tomorrow? Some sort of game?
Tomorrow I'm going to play the Alan Wake 2 DLC. I'm very excited for it because Alan Wake 2 was my game of the year last year. Thought it was amazing, and they dropped about a 3-hour DLC. We do about 3-hour streams. So I'm going to play the whole DLC tomorrow. Looking forward to that. That's just going to be on my desktop. Just do a desktop and chill stream.
But very soon, he'll be streaming from the Ally X. So,
Next
guys,
week?
follow us on social media. Join our Discord to stay up to date with the latest news and announcements. Or if you want to ask more questions for next week's stream, that thread is still open on our Discord. You can go there and ask questions there. Again, asking questions there doesn't guarantee that we're going to be able to answer it right away, but we are going to do our best to get as many answers as we can. Thank you guys for joining us. We will see you next time.
GG's.